bear with me, everybody. Things are...
Leah is our digital master extraordinaire, and she clicks all the buttons to make sure that our live streams go well. And she's hosting the podcast today, so she's doing double duty.
I
So
am
we love you for that.
eyes everywhere. Thanks, Colin.
You're doing awesome.
Welcome to the Med Matrix Method podcast. I am so excited a little nervous, but so excited. My name is Leah. I'm the marketing director. I'm a little nervous, but again, excited to be talking to Colin on the front end this time. I'm usually on the back end. I always get to hear the incredible things that Colin and that Dr. Rose get to talk about, and it's kind of surreal being here in the front.
It's fun
being on the other side of this. So, today I'm really excited because we're going to talk about something that, is so hype in in medical marketing right now. It's so hype. We're hearing all about it. Do we really know what it is? Most of us don't. But we're going to be talking about peptides. And that's exciting because it's really hitting all demographics. Like, we are seeing peptides being spoken about in every sense for everything, and to break down this understanding of a new medicine and a new type of care, a new type of preventative care, a safe way to use peptides and this new type of care. I'm very excited to be here with Colin, who is a master of peptides.
Oh gosh,
so
that's a big title.
Before we get started, and you hold it well. So before we get started, we're going to go over the structure of the podcast, which will be our discussion on peptides, and especially, peptides and their usage over 40 years old. Then as we go through, make sure you comment your questions, because at the end, we're going to talk about a little bit of a case study when we're done with our discussion. And then we'll go into a live Q&A where we will be able to sort through all of your questions that you have and come back to them and answer them at the end. All right. I did see there was a large amount of, registrations for this webinar,
Good.
which we are super excited about. So
Awesome.
Make sure you're leaving these comments, you're leaving these questions, and we will leave enough time at the end to get back to you guys. All right. And lastly, this webinar is for educational purposes only. This is not medical advice. If you would like personalized medical advice, which we specialize in, please visit our website, give us a call, and we would love to take you on as a new patient. But this specific podcast is for educational purposes only. This is not in replacement of medical advice. So after that very, very long-winded introduction, Colin.
Cue the music.
Cue the music. Colin?
We need music.
A little intro song.
Sure. Yeah. For those, I've done the podcast a lot, but for those who are new or just tuning in for the first time, I'm Colin Renaud. I'm one of the senior lead clinicians at Med Matrix. I have a unique background in chiropractic medicine and natural medicine. I practice at Med Matrix as a PA, and I specialize in functional medicine. I'm fellowship trained in functional medicine and hold multiple board certifications. So peptides are something I have been doing for many years. I'm a bit of a peptide junkie myself. I have gone to a ton of conferences and taken courses on peptides, and there's always like new and cool things to learn. So I'm excited to talk about it, and specifically the peptides for dummies, I think, is a really great way to introduce this, and especially for people of a certain age demographic where they might not think like peptides are for them, or it's like a young person thing or whatever. So definitely excited to be with you, Leah. Thank you. This will be a lot of fun.
All right, let's get started. And real quick, in the beginning of while we begin, do you know that Cristiano Ronaldo spends I think it's like 1 million. I texted Colin about this earlier. $1 million to $1.5 million on anti-aging medicine, longevity medicine a year for the past I don't know how many years.
I think a lot of people that have a lot of money and those that are in the public eye are doing a lot of anti-aging research and some probably really crazy things that probably we don't even know exist potentially. Maybe some like experimental things, or like putting in money into research into anti-aging, because, if you have the money, but then also, if you have a certain platform in the world, right, as a public figure, and you want to look a certain way and feel a certain way, and you're an athlete, right, you have to perform at a certain level. I think there's probably a ton of this going on. We just don't really know about it, I would imagine. I mean, if I had a ton of money, I'd be doing it too. So I'm sure I'd be right there doing all of it.
In there.
It's
I'd
a
be in
really
there
cool
as
thing,
well.
though. I'm sure he does peptides. I'm sure he does peptides.
I'm sure he does too.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure all
what
the
is a
World Cup
peptide?
guys are doing pep. Um,
Truly, tell us what is a peptide, and then like why are we all of a sudden talking about them so much?
So peptides are short chains of amino acids, and basically amino acids are chemicals that found naturally in the body, found naturally in foods, and they act basically. Peptides act as a signaling molecule in the body. Peptides help communicate instructions between cells and hormone receptors, and they can influence properties like inflammation, metabolism, tissue repair, inflammation, immune system signaling, weight loss. One of the most common peptides in the mainstream are GLP-1 medications, the weight loss drugs, the Ozempics, the Wegovy's, the Zepbounds. People know some of those terms, and you see all the commercials for them probably all the time on your TV and on the radio and stuff. So those are actually peptides, those medications. So people kind of see peptides in the mainstream and they just don't really know it yet. But um, and I think they're being so heavily talked about right now because number one, there's a huge influence on peptides, with peptides on social media. They're all over the place. I think there's a certain amount of people within social media and just culturally, like especially the younger demographic, they're looking for alternative ways to improve their health and longevity that goes kind of, I don't want to say against modern medicine because it's not against, but it's just, I think, in a different light. I think certain populations of people in the younger generation, in every generation actually, are looking for an alternative way to be optimal, feel healthy, feel like they can take on the world better, right? We see such a huge influence like Cristiano Ronaldo and some of these people in social media and in the media that perform at such a high level, athletes and celebrities and public figures, people that do sport or Olympians. I mean, it's the World Cup going on right now. So when you see people in maybe a similar age demographic as you performing at such a high level, you sort of try to imagine, well, how could I do that? Right? How could I perform at such a high level? How can I optimize myself from like a recovery perspective or weight loss perspective or, inflammation perspective? So I think people are turning to peptides as an alternative to, say, the traditional medical sense of things where optimization of health is not always at the forefront. So I think that's why people are seeking peptides as, I don't want to say an alternative, but just sort of in conjunction to what they're already doing.
Wow, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing them
Yeah,
everywhere. Everywhere I look, it's peptides
everywhere.
this, peptides that.
Yeah,
So
everywhere.
we call the episode Peptides for Dummies Over 40. And what
Mm.
changes after 40 that makes peptides in this conversation more relevant?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea that we are doing this sort of as an age demographic because I think, and 40 is a kind of a good cutoff, 40, 45-ish, because it seems as though statistically that people over 40 notice changes physically, whether it's the way they recover from physical activity or exercise or sport of some kind. Changes in their body composition are more common in people over the 40-year range. Energy levels start to decline in this part of life. People's sleep can be disrupted. A lot more people are having joint pain or inflammation or difficulty maintaining their muscle mass. So when we talk about peptides in this age group, I think it's really important because peptides are very helpful for everybody. They um, they are extremely beneficial for people when they start to notice physical changes in their body. So when we talk about peptides for dummies over 40, I think it's really, really appropriate because of the age change, the changes in people's body at that age. And some of these pathways that we talked about earlier, where peptides are doing these signaling and affecting hormones and receptors, these um, these pathways start to decline and become less efficient as we age. So when we talk about sort of patients over the age of 40, there's a level of optimization that has declined naturally. So peptides are a way to improve that. It's really cool. So
It is very cool. And
yeah.
what makes peptides so different from like hormones or supplements or other medications?
Yeah, that's a good question. So peptides are different from hormones or medications or supplements because they're just not those things. A hormone is a hormone. A hormone is a hormone like testosterone or estrogen or progesterone or cortisol or thyroid hormones. Supplements are often vitamins, minerals, herbs, botanical medicines. Medications are often synthetic pharmaceutical drugs that are produced to alter some sort of body body activity or change some sort of enzyme or something, reduce cholesterol, right? Reduce blood sugar, something like that. So peptides are, like I said earlier, they are chains of chemicals called amino acids that are present in the body and in food and in nature. And they specifically interact with these signaling pathways that influence how the body basically functions. So hormones, supplements, medications all do that too, just different at a different chemical structure. So the peptide is very specific to how a function is being perceived by the body, and some peptides act more like targeted messengers, while others may affect things like repair or immune system balance or appetite, recovery, repair on soft tissue. So there is a bit of a difference. It's just all biochemistry, really, of different types of biological molecules. So it can get a little confusing. There's a lot of things that we use, especially in the functional medicine world, and definitely at MedMatrix, we use a lot of different tools. We have a lot of different tools in our arsenal, peptides being one. So educating people about the difference of these things, I think, is really important. It's a great question, Leo.
Let's talk about just segueing off of that functional medicine and peptides within functional medicine, because now functional medicine
Yeah,
is or now peptides are this huge topic outside of functional medicine, but
yeah.
how it is, it's such a major topic within functional medicine, and how have we been utilizing that?
So, peptides are a big part of the functional medicine practice and sphere because functional medicine, as a philosophical approach to healthcare, really is trying to, number one, find root causes of chronic illness. But then there's a whole piece of functional and integrative healthcare that really focuses on optimization of the body, how well you feel, living your best life, right? Feeling really optimal as you age and longevity and what I call proactive aging. So patients may hear about peptides related to like recovery, how we repair ourselves, tissue injuries. I have a lot of patients that come to me, it's like, oh, I have an old shoulder football thing from college and it was never quite right again. And every time I work out, it's an issue. So is there anything I can do for that? And again, in the modern medical world, how do you try to repair an old injury? It's not, there's not a lot. There is some things, stem cells and certain anti-aging technologies, but it's tough. It's tough to repair a damaged part of the body. So there's a lot of things that we can do from a peptide perspective to do that. Same thing with like immune support or body composition or trying to enhance muscle mass with growth hormone signaling, supporting the gut. Huge topic in functional medicine. Do gut health every day, sleep all every day with every patient. Cognition is a big one too. And then there is a whole piece of peptide, the peptide world that focuses on aesthetics and skin and hair health, which who doesn't want that, right? Too. So the important question is not just what does peptides do, but it's sort of like which ones are the best for the patient, right? How, which ones can we give you? Because there are a lot of options for people. So it's a lot of things in functional health that integrate peptides. We do it all the time. It's one of the tenets of how we practice at MedMatrix. Peptides, like one of our pillars. So
And you talk a lot about peptide science, right? Peptide science, how
Yeah,
in functional medicine you're using peptide science.
right.
Can you talk more about how to separate that from peptide marketing? Because peptide marketing is just flooding all of our feeds, right?
Yeah,
And I think it's
and I
confusing people.
yeah, so it is really important to define peptides as a science versus just a marketing ploy because peptides are becoming I don't want to say a hot new thing. We have had peptides for a while, but they're definitely very sexy right now, for lack of a better term, right? They are all over the map. Influencers, people are, trying to get on the bandwagon of creating peptide companies, and it is all over the place. And I think it's all over the place because they do work so well. And we're trying to get this to the masses, and people are trying to make money off of them, which I understand. So peptides are often promoted online as sort of miracle solutions for a lot of things: fat loss, muscle gain, anti aging, libido, brain function, tissue repair. And probably everybody on the planet could relate to one of those things that they might want to improve, right? So many people want to lose weight, so many people want to gain muscle, so many people want to improve their libido or their sex life, so many people want to look better, so many people want to feel optimal in terms of maybe pain or recovery from physical activity. So if you try to market those feelings to a person in, say, a social media setting, you'll get people who will kind of grab at that, right? Oh my gosh, anti-aging, I need that. Oh, weight loss, I need that, right? And it's sort of this grab. So we have to kind of make sure we're educating people on what is appropriate and safe versus just marketing to sell you something. Because so
Yeah,
many people on the internet, social media want to sell you something. So functional medicine's goal is to really take the hype away from certain online things like social media and really apply the clinical reasoning, the safety, the patient appropriateness. The sourcing is a big one, right? We always say on this podcast and in our med matrix world that doing peptides from research labs is a huge no-no. We don't know where they're sourced from. We don't even know what's in them. So when we prescribe peptides at MedMatrix, we use compounding pharmacies, which are, you know, they have regulations, and so we know what we're getting in terms of the product. So trying to understand the difference from a patient's perspective is really important because you want to make sure you're doing something appropriately, you're dosing appropriately, what you're getting is appropriate versus just feeding into something that you saw on an Instagram ad or something that is just trying to pull you in to kind of those emotional feels that people are looking for. So it's a really important question, really important thing to cover.
yeah, you kind of covered my next question, which is why are peptides not a standalone solution? Why can you not just do a peptide and it'd be poof?
Yeah, we talk. Yeah, I wish it was that easy, right? Just like poof. And we
Yeah,
talk about
right?
this on the
That's
podcast
kind of
all
how
the
they market
time.
it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just marketed as, and always marketing is someone very, attractive, a nice physique. It's like, I want to look like that. So if I buy this product, I will. And it's not that easy. Peptides are not a standalone solution because they cannot replace nutrition. They cannot replace strength training. They cannot replace sleep or stress management or blood sugar control, hormone balance, gut health. I mean, the list goes on and on. So peptides are a tool. Whenever I prescribe the weight loss peptides, the GLP-1s, I always preface to my patients, this is a tool. This is not something we are just going to give you and, okay, bye, see you in 6 months. It's not how this works. You have to do your part in terms of proper diet. You have to exercise. You have to have proper water intake. We have to talk about your hormones. We have to talk about your stress, about your sleep. So the peptides are a tool. And if the root causes of someone's chronic, complex health concern are not addressed, then peptides may not work. or they may provide some sort of temporary solution, or may make things worse. And then people will discredit their efficacy, which is something that we don't want either, right? Right? We want to
Yeah.
spread the positivity of the benefits of these things in the right setting. So I do see that all the time where people will have taken something like a GLP-1 peptide for weight loss, and they weren't counseled on diet, they weren't counseled on the lifestyle stuff, so it didn't work for them. So understanding the other nuances of peptide use is just as important as the peptide, I think.
So
Yeah.
specifically for the population over 40, right?
Yeah.
This this personalized approach becomes, I don't want to say more important. It's always important, right?
Yeah.
But what would you say for people specifically above 40? How does that impact them to have this personalized approach to make sure it's more careful in a sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as you said, individualized approach to care is important for anybody at any age, but the over 40 population, as we sort of talked about earlier, needs to be careful because people in this age range, and we're generalizing, right? We're not trying to be, we're just being very general, not trying to offend anybody, just trying
Yeah.
to get education to the masses. But people over the 40-year mark may have more complex health histories. This is when we start to see shifts in hormones for both men and women. This is when we start to see insulin resistance and blood sugar dysregulation creep in. This is when we start to see cardiovascular risks increase, inflammation increasing, changes in people's thyroid function. As we get older, a general rule of thumb, again, not everybody, but a general rule of thumb is as you get older, you might start accumulating more medications for certain things. Not a bad thing. It just is kind of how it goes sometimes. And then when we reach a certain age too, our ability to recover changes, our physical stamina changes, our physical fitness capabilities and capacity changes, right? How much stamina, how much physical exertion you can draw, you can deliver changes. So um, peptide therapy needs to be personalized and monitored in these populations and in every population, not just treated like a generic sort of wellness trend. And that's really our tenet from a functional medicine perspective at MedMatrix is personalizing everybody's treatment, no matter what your age is. But as people's health becomes more complex with age, it deserves even more personalization, I think. That's just my philosophy on healthcare. But I think it works really well. So it's a great question.
Something you say all the time. It's one pill for every ill. I love
Yes.
that saying.
I'm going to make
That is what,
t-shirts.
yes, I love that saying. You say
Hats.
it all the time, and it really
Yeah.
sticks in my brain, right? Because people come back. I take the testimonials. This is kind of off the show notes, right? But I take the
Yeah.
testimonials of patients who have seen, huge improvements through not only Colin's treatment, but and plans, but the other providers here at MedMatrix. And Colin's specifically, they say, oh, it's not, one thing for everyone. And I say, oh, you mean the one pill for every ill? That he's like,
That's
that's
my
it.
catchphrase. Yeah,
It
because
is, and it works very
people understand it. They get it, and sort of, we're not, and we don't say that. I don't say that, and we don't convey that message at Med Matrix to be anti-medication because we're not. Do I prescribe
well.
medication every day? 100%. But we understand that in a traditional, more conventional healthcare setting, maybe like primary care, or maybe even specialty medicine settings, if you go to your doc, and this is not necessarily a medicine thing. This is a human nature thing. If you go to someone looking for something because you have a problem, if you don't leave with some sort of solution, AKA a pill in hand or a pill ready for me at a pharmacy, you don't feel like you did something. You don't feel like you got a, a solution. So the pill to every ill is kind of a basic tenet of healthcare because that is a conventional, more often than not, way of approaching healthcare. It's the doctor with a symptom. Okay, here's a pill for that symptom. Okay, well, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. Depends on what the thing is. But From a sociological and human nature perspective, if you are going shopping for something, aka to your doctor because you don't feel good, and you don't come out of the store with a bag in hand, you feel like you haven't been given enough. So if you go to your doctor and I have a symptom, I have something wrong, and they tell you, well, why don't you start eating better and try to do these few things? Well, I'm not get what do I get? I'm not walking away with something. Where's my thing? I didn't get something. And that's a psychological reflux on us as humans of positive reinforcement. That's one of the biggest reasons why if you go to your doctor with a cold, which is 99% of the time viral, and they give you antibiotics, the reason they're giving you antibiotics is to reassure you that
Mm,
you will feel better to take this pill, even though it's not probably going to do anything. So there's a huge psychological influence on the way healthcare is approached too, to basically quote unquote satisfy people. Because if they don't walk away with something, they're dissatisfied with their care. And it's
yeah.
been heavily studied in healthcare and medicine, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting, ethical and psychological human experience that we deal with in healthcare. So yeah, not to be off topic, but it's a great
Oh,
point
I
that
mean,
you brought up.
I never even thought about that, but I think I do
Yeah,
the same thing.
yeah, we
I
all
think I do.
do. And if you go to a big box store looking for something, you're shopping for something and they don't have it, you're disappointed. So if you go to your
Mm,
doctor looking for help and they don't send you home with something, you feel cheated. Well, I didn't get something. And that something that they can offer you is medication, more often than not. If you come away with nutrition like plan, well, I didn't, that's not what I wanted. I want something I can take. I want something that's tangible that I can do. So you almost feel like you're cheated if that doesn't
mm.
happen. Yeah. Yeah. So
All
anyway,
right. So now let's segue back after I just
sure.
wrote literally everything down that you had said. So from a functional medicine perspective, when somebody's interested in peptides, like let's talk about
Yeah.
what symptoms or causes might lead somebody to be looking for peptides and what, I guess, root causes you evaluate when considering someone for peptides.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in the functional medicine world, some of the most common root causes that bring people to want to seek peptides are insulin resistance. It's a big one. We talked about that a couple times already. Insulin resistance, maybe more so translating into diabetes, weight, obesity. Um, Hormone imbalance is a big one. Peptides don't replace hormone replacement therapy, but peptides can enhance hormone function. Um, we also see a lot of thyroid dysfunction that people are looking to utilize peptides for. Again, peptides do not replace thyroid replacement medications if necessary, but they can potentially enhance thyroid function. Um, Chronic stress is a big one. So we use a lot of peptides that can affect neurotransmitters in the brain, which are the chemicals that make you feel good and help you sleep and help you feel happy and not depressed. So that's a huge one that we do all the time. Peptides that can act as anti-anxiety chemicals, can help with energy, can help with mitochondrial function, which is how energy is produced in the cell at a microscopic level. Gut dysfunction is a big one. We use a lot of peptides to help restore gut integrity and gut function. And then also people that are looking to change their body composition. That's a huge one, whether it's weight loss, that's probably the most common. But then when people are sort of on the other side of weight loss, they're like, well, I want to build muscle. I'm an athlete. I want to get into bodybuilding. I want to have more muscle mass as I age, especially people over 40. I see this in men and women all the time where they're working out and they're just not noticing tone. I just had this today. A patient said, yeah, I'm doing all the right things. I'm working out, but my muscle tone just is not where I think it should be given my efforts. Sure. Yep. and she was in her menopausal years and had low hormone function. So, using hormone replacement therapy to optimize hormones and then maybe combining that with peptide therapy to help with muscle definition and muscle mass building be a great solution. So, those are really, really common things we see from a functional medicine perspective when it comes to peptides. Yeah, see them all the time, every day. Almost every patient we see could benefit from some sort of peptide, so somewhere down the road.
Me too, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
can you speak a little bit more about, let's say, like for a case, a menopausal woman, right, comes
Mhm.
in and you have the symptoms, the hot flashes, the, you know, like weight gain, the everything that comes with menopause. What would you, I guess, what is a route that you would take in treating this woman? I know this is a little off the show notes, but all these symptoms, the root cause might be peptides, might be menopause, right? But how
Right.
could we use peptides as a tool to help them?
So we could actually like look at this almost as how do peptides and hormones sort of overlap, right? As like a healthy aging approach. And the it's a great example you gave because I do it all the time. Hormones and peptides influence communication in the body. So hormone shifts after 40 can affect muscle mass, as I just mentioned. They can affect your metabolism. They can affect your energy levels, your mood. That's a big one. Recovery from physical activity. So hormones, as we said before, peptides, not hormones. Peptides are not a replacement for hormones. Hormones are a totally different biochemical, very specific jobs in the body, very much needed. So peptides may be considered alongside hormone evaluation, but they're not used as a shortcut around proper hormone or thyroid or, metabolic work that needs to be done. But in the case of hormone replacement for a female, say in her menopausal years, you can use certain peptides to enhance recovery from physical activity. We use peptides all the time in conjunction with hormone replacement for weight loss. That's a big one. We might use hormones all the time in conjunction with peptides in the conjunction with hormones for inflammation. That's another big one. So certainly there's a lot of different avenues that can be explored. And once it's funny because once a lot of times once our patients start to get going on something like hormone replacement or a peptide and they start to feel better, I'll get calls or my assistant will get calls like, okay, what can I do now? Like, give me more. You've got to have more things that I can do because I'm feeling so good. It happens all the time. So then the conversation is, well, you started on hormone replacement therapy. How about we talk about peptides, and how that can enhance your treatment plan and enhance the outcomes of your your plan and your goals. So it's definitely things that go together all the time. They influence each other significantly. It's a great example too that you gave because we see patients like that all the time, every day.
Well, so what would be a reason that two patients are taking the same peptide for totally different things, or two patients with the same, root cause problem are taking totally different peptides?
A great question. So patients, no patient's the same, right? Everybody's different. So two people might use the same peptide and have different outcomes, or vice versa, might use different peptides for the same outcome. And the reason for that is because there's different root causes, number one, different levels of hormones. Uh, Patients might be in different phases of life, right? One's menopausal, one's not. Different sleep patterns, different nutrition. A big one is different body composition, too. Body composition plays a huge role in how peptides work and hormone replacement works. Um, there could also be medication histories, right? Are there things that are not appropriate for a patient because of potential interactions? That's another part of our job is whenever we have to prescribe something, whether it's a botanical medicine, a nutrient, a supplement, any sort of natural herbal thing, peptide, hormone, we have to make sure that it's safe for use with. any type of medication or other medical treatment the patient is already taking. So functional medicine recognizes that the same therapy can produce very different results depending on the person. And that's really how personalized care works, right? You can't just apply the same thing for every patient and expect everyone to have the same outcome. And unfortunately, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but unfortunately, that's kind of how the modern conventional healthcare system works. We use the same drugs over and over and over and over and over for all kinds of people of different backgrounds, different body compositions, different hormone states, different stress levels, and we're expecting the same outcome. And there's no way that's going to happen. And that's why people come to us, because they've been put on meds for cholesterol or diabetes or sleep issues or whatever. And it's like, okay, the medication is supposed to work for X reason, but it didn't. Well, why isn't it? Or why are you still not feeling well? Right. So that's really where the functional medicine piece is different. The approach is different because we are trying to find that personalized solution. So it's a great thought. Yeah.
So you kind of touched on conventional medicine. How
Mhm.
can, I guess, this conventional approach leave a patient? Let's say a patient goes to their primary care and says, I want a peptide,
Yeah.
right? How would that leave a patient kind of confused? You're laughing. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because if peptides are discussed in a, say, with a primary care doctor or in a conventional medical setting, you would probably be sort of very politely escorted out. Not permanently, not like never come
Oh,
back kind of thing, but you would probably be shut down by your doctor. Like, oh, I want to do peptides. And they may look at you like, what are you talking about? Or they may say something, the provider may say, oh, they're dangerous. Or they may say, oh, there's no research for that. Or they may say, I don't know anything about it. So there could be a lot of reasons why in the conventional medical setting that the peptides are not brought up or not sort of approved, quote unquote, if that's kind of what the patient's looking for, is that approval. Conventional medical approach often focuses on, like I said, things that are generally accepted across a mass population, FDA approved medications, um, treatment that's based on, a pathology, right? If you have a thyroid problem, you're put on medication. If you have diabetes, you're put on a medication. It's tailored to a disease process, conventional healthcare, and also symptoms. I can't sleep. Here's a sleeping pill. I have a thyroid problem. Here's a thyroid pill. Something like that. So many patients are asking about peptides, and they're told very little because the conversation just doesn't fit in the conventional medical space, and especially the insurance-based standard algorithmic healthcare. No one, including myself, you, Leah, or anyone at MedMatrix, is condemning the modern healthcare system. We need it. It serves its purpose, but we can all appreciate that it does have some level of fragment to it. It is not perfect system. It works for some, not all. There's a lot of things that I would love to improve about the healthcare system, but just the way it's designed does not really coalesce with individualized therapies such as peptides. And it's just a systematic problem. Will it ever change? I don't know. But a lot
cross
of
my
healthcare is
fingers.
driven, yeah, a lot of healthcare is driven by insurance companies too. So insurance doesn't pay for peptides. If that ever happened, then probably all your doctors would be putting you on peptides. But until that happens, I don't think it's going to be very well received in the conventional medical space.
Yeah. So let's kind
Yeah.
of switch 180. And if you
Okay.
came into your functional medicine doctor, and I know we kind of touched on this a few times, you came into your functional
Yeah.
medicine doctor and said, tell me about peptides. I want to get on a peptide. How would they approach that differently?
So, a functional medicine doctor might approach peptide therapy differently because functional medicine starts with understanding the patient and their full sort of history, what their story is, their symptoms, their goals. their sleep habits, their nutrition habits, what they take every day, what meds are they on, how much stress do they have, what's their gut like. My colleague, Dr. Rose, always, probably every episode of this podcast talks about people's bowel movements, right? We talk about that all the time. How are people pooping? Is it normal? Is it not? How are your hormones? How are your stress? How's your stress? What kind of body are you working with? Are you overweight? Are you too skinny? Do you have no muscle mass? There's so many things. So peptides have to be considered within like that full context, not like a one size fits all. And because functional medicine clinicians do look at all of these parameters of a patient, we can start to put together a picture of different things that need to be addressed, and peptides can often be a part of that. And again, from the functional medicine, or not even necessarily functional medicine, but in sort of the wellness sphere, or regenerative medicine, or anti-aging sphere, whatever you want to call it, there's this push from patients to want to have longevity. I want to live
Mm.
longer. I want to feel better as I live longer. I want to run in a marathon when I'm 70 kind of people. I love those people. They're awesome. Sort of that, fighting against time kind of thing, and doing the best that they can. So that is definitely a tenet of functional medicine, is that proactive aging piece of things. So there's a lot that goes into the approach from our perspective. Yeah.
So, talking about longevity, how would peptides fit into this like larger anti-aging or healthy aging plan after 40 years old?
That's a good question. So peptides fit into the larger healthy anti-aging plan after 40, because peptides will, as we talked about earlier, support um, goals like recovery. Like I used the example earlier, a patient having an old football injury that just never got better, and it affects their ability to lift in the gym or something like that. People were in a car accident and it's like, I was never the same, or I have this tennis elbow thing, or I have this chronic back pain thing, or so that's a huge one after 40, is that recovery. Also, body composition, which we've talked about quite a few times already. People are looking to lose weight. People are looking to build muscle, looking to just sort of change the way they look overall. And that's different for everybody. I have, especially for women, say all the time, well, I don't want to be stick thin. I still want my curves, but I want to, just have curves in the right places, and I want to have some tone. Okay, well, that's going to be different than, say, a woman at a different age, or maybe a man with different body composition goals. So you have to take all that into consideration. There's, inflammation balance or resiliency of the body. Um, but all of peptides need to be paired with, proper nutrition. How much protein are you eating? How much fat are you eating? Carbohydrates. What kind of resistance training are you doing? How's your sleep? How's your blood sugar? How's your stress? So all of those things are extremely important when we talk about peptides in the larger picture for people over 40. Really, really important. Like we said earlier, the health complexity picture just gets more and more as we age, and that's not a bad thing. It's just, the longer you're on the earth, the more susceptible you are to stuff happening to you. So as we age, we have to take better stock of all this stuff together. It's really important.
So, um, sorry, I lost my track in that
No, it's
because
okay. Yeah. No, it's okay. I think what we're trying to get at is sort of, you know, uh, how are peptides fitting into the larger picture? And I think it's a good
yeah,
segue to talk about sort of like how we plan this stuff out. What a med
yeah.
matrix plan looks like, and when someone wants to look for peptides, how does that kind of fit? Does that seem like a good segue?
I think that's great. And I would love to, I guess, start with what we evaluate when somebody comes in for peptides, right? So what are we evaluating to see, is this right for you?
Yeah. So at MedMatrix, we evaluate patients from a very comprehensive perspective. We do a comprehensive intake. There are some forms you have to fill out. You got to tell us about yourself, which people find annoying, but too bad. You got to tell us about yourself. We got to know who you are. Tell us all about you, everything you've ever done, who you are. We want to know. We want to know about your symptoms. We want to know about your health history. What kind of surgeries have you had? Have you had trauma? What kind of relationships have you had, if you're comfortable sharing? Medications that you're on, supplements you take, homeopathy that you take, botanicals that you take. What's your lifestyle, right? What do you do for work? What do you do during the day? Are you retired? How do you spend your time? Do you sit on your butt all day? Do you run marathons? All that is so important. I ask every new patient in the first visit, what do you eat? Tell me what you eat. It's not, well, I eat well. No, no, no. What do you eat? Tell me what you had for breakfast. Tell me what you had for lunch. Tell me what you snack on. What do you drink? Do you drink coffee? Do you drink soda? How much water do you drink? How much sleep do you get? Is it restful sleep? Are you waking up all night? Are you peeing 5 times a night? What's your stress like? Are you stressed from your job? Are you stressed from your spouse? Are you stressed from your kids? Are you stressed because life is tough? Tell me about your body, right? Do you want to change it? Are you happy with it? Do you have weight loss goals? Do you have muscle building goals? Do you have athletic goals? Are you trying to compete in a triathlon? Are you trying to just walk around your neighborhood better? And then we do some really significant lab testing that goes beyond what most people are getting, maybe even from their primary care doctor. And I think right now our baseline panel for all new patients is over 100 biomarkers, Leah, I think. Is that right?
Over 80.
Over 80. Yeah, okay. So we evaluate people's metabolic health, their hormones, their thyroid function, inflammation, nutrition status, kidney and liver function, cardiovascular disease risk factors, autoimmune susceptibility patterns. So we use all of these parameters, all this objective data from a lab perspective, and all the subjective data that you tell us in terms of your health history, who you are, what you do. And we put that together in a very specific personalized plan, which could include hormone replacement therapy. It could include peptide therapy. It will always include nutrition. For me anyway, we're always talking about nutrition. How can we better nutrition? How to, stress management, water intake, exercise, specific supplements that we might need to use for deficiencies. Um, and then also trying to target things like, if there's gut issues, do we need to do more testing? Do we need to be more specific about testing for something like a Lyme disease or a gut health problem or a hormonal imbalance that's related to like stress hormones? So there's a lot of avenues we can go down after that first visit, but we're doing a lot of work on that first visit to personalize their plan, which could include peptides right from the get-go. Patients are often prescribed a peptide on day one, and that is not everybody, right? We're not giving peptides to everybody just because, but if it's appropriate and that's part of the treatment plan, you could walk away with a peptide on your first visit. And that's something we pride ourselves on, because a lot of offices, you need to have multiple visits before you even get started on something. So we love doing baseline blood work with patients when they walk in the door before they even see a clinician for the first time, so that we can get the ball rolling right away. We don't want to waste any time.
Well, um, that answers
Sorry,
every single
was that
question
a
I had in
lot?
the first. That answered all my questions.
Was that too much?
No,
Was that too
no, that
much?
was perfect. I didn't even have to ask questions. You already did it. So you have like a case study or just like a real life, I guess, instance of how how you've worked with peptides and patients and seen success
Yeah, I
besides,
mean,
the everyday.
yeah, I was gonna say that every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I do use a decent amount, the weight loss peptides, the GLP-1s, in combination with other things, right? Optimal nutrition and lifestyle. We have to combine the peptides with those things to optimize them. So people get a lot of success with the GLP-1s when they're monitored appropriately, and we're doing the other work with diet and exercise and all the right things that need to go along with that. I do have, there's a patient I've been treating for maybe 6 months now or so. He's 30, no, I don't know, maybe 39, maybe 41, something like that. Um, and he came to me with a, a very common concern of a lot of men in that age group where it's, yeah, I'm starting to put on a little weight. And this is why we talked about this podcast over 40, right? Because, like,
Mhm.
okay, this is when we start to see these changes. I think he was 41 or something like that. But it is something to the effect of I'm starting to, pack on a little weight. I'm not being as cognizant about my health. I really think I should start paying attention to my health. I'm at that age. I'm trying to work out, but like, I don't know, it's not really working. I'm not really losing any weight. Trying to eat healthy. I don't know if it's really helping. So, upon evaluation, his testosterone was quite low. So we talked about hormone replacement options, and after about 3 months of a follow up, he was doing a lot better on hormone replacement. He was in the gym, he was working out, his body composition was starting to change, his muscle was building, his energy was great, sleeping great. And we talked a lot about it during the first visit, but we sort of like, okay, let's get your hormones going and then we'll talk more. But he had a lot of injuries, old like football injuries, trauma. He was in a car accident at a young age and sort of struggled with that. So he's like, well, the hormones are helping a lot with my injuries and my inflammatory stuff, like musculoskeletal inflammatory issues. But what else can I do? And it's like, oh, peptides, perfect. Let's talk. Let's dive into this. So we started him on some peptides that really focus on anti-inflammation, musculoskeletal regeneration, soft tissue regeneration. And there are some studies that show that certain peptides have a unique synergism with hormones such as testosterone. So they often like make each other work better. So I just saw him at his like 6 month follow up, and he's killing it, like killing it in the gym. I've lost like 15 pounds since we started, and we do body compositions too. I forgot to mention that. We do a full body composition assessment for new patients. So how much muscle do you have? How much body fat do you have? And his muscle mass went up like, I think 6 pounds or something like that. He had lost like 5 pounds of body fat or 5% body fat. He was really like on this new journey. Like, oh my God, I am just going to be like a triathlete now. I was like, yes, dude, love that. Do it. So it really took hormone optimization, but then using the peptides and synergism to start repairing some of these injuries and helping him feel better from a musculoskeletal perspective that just took him over the edge of this, what I call like elitism. Like he was living this, he wanted to be an elite person, feeling really good, performing at a high level physically in the gym and cognitively and just performance in life. And I think that's what we gave him. And it was really cool. So I'll be anxious to see him in another few months, see how he's doing. But those are the kind of cases that we're using peptides, right? We're not just putting like sprinkling it on and just like, okay, hope it works. It's very tailored to people's needs and their goals. It's really important for the work we do to be personalized to get those kind of outcomes. So, yeah,
That's probably
yeah,
incredible watching him like do that,
100%.
like have
Yeah,
that journey.
yeah,
Wow.
it is. It's fun. It's fun to see patients' brains click, like when the light bulb comes on and they're like, oh gosh, I did not realize how good I could feel, or like how, pardon my French, like badass I could feel. It's like, yes, I love that for you, right? I love that for you. I want more people to feel that. And it's really fun. It's really fun when people feel that. So, pardon my French a little bit
That's
there.
awesome.
So, it's a podcast, right? We
Alright.
can, yeah, we can be, yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
No one's gonna censor us, right?
Thank you much. Alright. So we have a few questions. This I'm not really quite sure if we can just go into questions really quick. It's not really a question, but I think it's interesting. I have long COVID, POTS, Ehlers-Danlos, CRPS, migraines, CFS, ME, fibro,
Fibro.
Cushing. How would, I guess my question based off of this is, can a peptide help?
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't give
So
medical advice, but
yeah, I'm not going to give specific advice on treating these conditions because these conditions are very complex and these are things we treat at MedMatrix. I have a pretty extensive background in treating complex chronic illness, such as these things on top of the other things that I treat. So, peptides are really, really important in patients with these complex illnesses because we're seeing a lot more evidence and research on the efficacy of certain peptides in these conditions, whether it's to reduce inflammation or to promote immune system function, optimize immune function. A lot of promise in peptides. So, for this particular person, I would seek out a very, very experienced clinician that has a lot of knowledge on peptides and chronic health issues to explore your options. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great options out there for you, for sure.
all right. And this one's kind of around the same topic, but will I be able to take peptides with a cancer diagnosis? I am cancer free now. Again, we can't give medical advice, but I think this is a
Um,
good broad question.
Cancer is tricky. So, if you have active cancer, no. Um, if you are cancer free, it depends on the cancer. It depends on how long you've been cancer free. It depends on the peptide you're trying to potentially use. There's a lot of depends, and I don't like to sound wishy-washy for that, but I don't want to be specific either. So there are options. It's just there are a lot of different variables that need to be considered in someone that has had cancer. That's why it's very, very tailored and personalized. And I want to be very clear too that myself nor any of the clinicians at MedMatrix, we are not oncologists. We do not have training in oncology. I'm not an oncologist. None of my colleagues at MedMatrix are oncologists. So oftentimes, depending on the patient, depending on the nature of the cancer, we may involve an oncology team to better understand their view about the patient's care, the patient's follow up, their prognosis. Our goal is not to have cancer return. You know, our goal is to support the patient so they can be cancer free and live optimally. But sometimes there are certain things that we cannot do for a patient that has had cancer, and that has to be very carefully considered. So, yeah.
I think that was a great
Um,
answer.
yeah.
All right. Well, Colin,
There's
is
another
there
question, Leah. There was one
where?
more, a couple above that. Um, I've heard a lot about preparing mitochondria before starting some of the peptide protocols. What does that look like? So I just want to answer this really quick. So there's Julie L, if you're still listening, you are on
Ah,
YouTube. So I've heard a lot about repairing mitochondria before starting some of the peptide protocols. What does that look like? So there are actually peptides that help enhance mitochondrial function. So if you're looking for peptides that enhance or improve mitochondrial effectiveness, that is a really great option. You don't necessarily have to repair mitochondria before starting peptide protocols. Mitochondrial repair can take time. So oftentimes it might be something you're doing in synergism using peptides or other types of therapies to help repair mitochondria, enhance mitochondrial function. But it's certainly not something you need to like, okay, I've completed my mitochondrial repair. Now I can move on to peptides. I would recommend doing things in synergism. A lot of great options there from a peptide perspective. So yeah, sorry, Julia, didn't
Julie,
want to miss
forgive
you.
me. I'm glad you saw it, Colin.
No, it's
Glad you
okay.
did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally missed it. So for, I guess, to wrap up here, because we're almost at time, we're going to get cut off
Yeah.
on Instagram. If, for
Mhm.
somebody listening who's curious about peptide therapy, what is the most important takeaway here today?
Yes. So the most important takeaway from today, our Peptides Over 40 podcast, is peptides are not magic, right? They are not something that you just poof and you're good. And it's not something that you just copy and paste onto yourself from an influencer on social media. You are not them. They are not you. Everything is different. They are very useful tools for patients in very specific circumstances, but only when they're personalized. They have to be clinically appropriate. They have to be safely sourced, right? I say this all the time. I said this at the top of the podcast. We do not recommend patients utilize peptides that are from research labs. They are sold all over the internet, all over social media, but you don't know what it is. You don't know if it's regulated. You have no idea what's in there. It comes in a little powder. You don't know what that is. Who's vetted it? So it is very unsafe. And peptides, as I've mentioned a couple times, are to be used with a comprehensive plan. They're not just a standalone tool. The goal is not a trend. It's really to understand the body, the root causes of issues, support repair, optimize health. And that's always something that we're doing from a safe, strategic, and individualized fashion. So I think that's the best takeaway I can give to everybody listening on our Peptides for Dummies podcast. So
I
I
thought
hope
that was
that works.
beautifully
Good.
put.
Great.
Well, Colin, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute
Thank you.
pleasure being
Yeah.
here and being able to be and conduct this, podcast, this
You
webinar. I
did
don't know if I did
great.
the best
You did
job. Oh,
great,
thank
Leah. You
you.
are a
Thank
natural. You
you.
are a
Oh
natural.
man.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
hype me up.
weird
You
because
might think more of me.
it's weird because
But
we on the podcast we change hosting duties. So sometimes I host, sometimes Dr. Rose hosts. So now you're a host. We're trying to mix it up and get people interested. So you did amazing. So
oh, thank you. Well,
claps for
thank you so
Leah.
much. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. If you're here, if you're interested in becoming a new patient, visit our website and you can schedule a discovery call with one of our patient success coordinators. But again, thank you so much for your time, Colin, and thank you everyone for
Yeah,
being here.
thank you.
And we will see you next time.
See
Have a
you
great
next
night.
time.